Okay, at 6:30, let's call this meeting to order, please. Please join for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all.
Thank you, welcome. I have no additions to the agenda. Does anybody else on the board? I have no remarks. Open public comment for items not on the agenda. Okay. Michael. Michael has indicated interest in the second constable position. We have not had anyone else indicate. So if you would wish to appoint him, we'll need a motion for that.
I move that we appoint Michael Root as the second constable.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, carries. Michael, if you come up here, I'll swear you in. You solemnly swear or affirm you will faithfully discharge the duties of second constable until the next Vernon Town and Town School District meeting of March 2025, and therein do equal right and justice to all men and women according to your best judgment and ability, so help you God. Okay, if you sign it here, we'll finish it up later. And we'll still do it. Thank you so much for signing that. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Read it. All right, Cindy, please, quarterly report.
First, I'd like to take a moment on behalf of myself and Kevin to thank everyone for their understanding and support during our loss of his mom, Ellen. We appreciate it very much. As far as my quarterly report, the investments are almost completely transferred over to M&T. Excuse me. And so that process is going along well. I'm in constant contact with them, and they're keeping me updated on what's going on. And of course, this first quarter has been very busy with town meeting, getting their financial reports together for the town report, town meeting itself. Taxes were due in January. And so now I'm in the middle of being audited for the EOC generator grant. That started last week, and I have 2 weeks to get everything together and get it to them. So I'm busy doing that. And let's see what else is going on. It's just been a very busy time. With me being gone for the 3 weeks, I had a lot of catch up to do, but I got back. And everybody was very understanding about that, which I appreciated. And now we're looking toward coming up on the end of the fiscal year, taxes due again in May. And so we're very busy, but the day goes by fast. And I don't know if you have any questions about anything at this point.
No.
Just thank you for all your hard work.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Keep it up.
Okay, have a good night.
You too. Okay, cemetery caretaker. I'm sorry, approval of minutes. No, I missed you. It's okay, you can
Just teasing.
Right.
Okay, wrong thing.
Okay, so I have a very short report. The town clerk, recreation director, and myself have been working with our website developer to create online fillable forms and online payment options for the two departments, and we hope to have that up and running in the next few weeks. I had completed an AED grant in the amount of $1,300 towards the purchase of new AEDs, and I hope to hear in the next 2 weeks on that, as we need to purchase 4. Last Friday, Casella placed door hangers in town on residents' stores to inform the public. Trash collection and recycle collection as of April 1st will now be on Fridays. And the Civil Board of Authorities will be holding a meeting on March 28th at 6:30 to address the property tax issue that was posted on tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Amendment approval?
I little suggestion. On the February 20th, on the last page, the phone work at the highway garage, so that was done by Southern Vermont
Oh, I missed that, yep.
telephone,
Thank
right?
you.
So
I'll add that.
if we can add that in, and otherwise, I think it looked okay.
Motion to approve it as corrected.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Brenda?
Aye.
Jim?
I have to abstain.
Jean? And I'm an aye. Okay, thank you very much. Warrant.
Well, we had
Well, we had a
another
reorganizational
set.
meeting. Right.
Um,
Again.
Which again, I move that we approve the Selectboard Reorganizational meeting minutes of March 5th as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Brenda?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we get to the warrants.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move that we approve payment of the following warrant. 18T accounts payable, $94,915.36. 10S payroll, $10,340.77. 11S payroll, $10,906.49. And ratify 17T accounts payable, $65,414.78. 8S payroll, $9,958.95. And 9S payroll, $9,451.38.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, Brenda?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business, select board member rules and agreement.
I have a question,
Yes.
because it may be okay because of the way it's written, but on Rule 10, generally, public participants will be allowed to speak at the beginning of each meeting on agenda items, and at the end of the meeting on non-agenda items.
Yeah.
I mean, that leaves it a little vague, but we don't do it that way, but it's, you know, like generally,
That was 10.
what's that?
Was that number 10? I didn't read the name.
Rule 10?
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it could get left that way. It's not. Because it's not
You want to have that corrected and do it next meeting?
probably.
I think so.
Yes.
That's
Better
good
run it
catch.
that way.
Yeah, good catch. Thank you, Jean. Cemetery caretaker agreement. You have it before you, a copy of it?
So this is a different caretaker,
Yeah.
right?
It is with Southern Vermont Outdoor Services of Guilford, Vermont.
Had she put it out for like general bid and this was the only response, or?
I believe it was because and he worked for the company that had it last year. That he's on, so nobody else did.
Oh, so he was probably doing it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably. So what is your pleasure, board? For $28,000.
It's unfortunate that they always know how much money is available before they submit their bids.
I think we submitted it before.
It's hard to get around it because it's in the budget, but it's
Yeah.
like, oh, well, that's right to the penny.
Yeah, I know.
Amazing. But that's just how that works, so. I move that we approve a contract with Southern Vermont Outdoor Services for the caretaker of the cemeteries, Vernon cemeteries.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And he does have all of his insurance and everything with it too.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Brandon?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
And an aye. I'll pass this around and sign it. Recreation Center, Mr. Dio.
Hey guys. So I'm here to request the use of ARPA funds for several projects around the recreation area. I believe you have kind of an itemized list that I sent to Shelley.
Yeah.
I may have changed it. It's very, very similar, but if you don't mind, I'm just gonna.
And this is another one?
It's the same, it's just, I think that I made it look a little bit prettier, a little bit more organized perhaps. It's pretty well the same.
Okay.
It's just, I wanna make sure we're looking at the exact same pages.
Alrighty.
So that I don't, so essentially the projects that we're looking at were developed through the Recreation Master Plan project. Portions of them being some ADA projects that the town could benefit from. So if you're looking at that first page, these prices were developed working with Johnson's Paving. They have been exceptional to work with. Kind of the knowledge that they've sent my way has been really helpful. So it's broke down into basically 4 different projects in terms of the ADA compliancy piece. Providing some parking near the bathhouse is something that we need to do. We have informal parking now. Basically, folks that have been around and used the pool know that go ahead, park right underneath the big oak tree right there, you're fine, but that doesn't really meet the standard. So the plan is to remove that oak tree, which is overgrown and broken and growing into the flagpoles at the moment, and have 2 spaces built in that location. That comes at a cost of $6,250, with $400 needed to strike the spaces. And then we have options as far as the curbing goes. We could choose an asphalt curbing, a granite curbing, or a T-lock block retaining wall. It would be my thought that the asphalt curbing is not going to hold up over time, and probably can cross that one off our list. So then it's a matter of whether or not the granite curbing or the T-lock is what we're interested in. And I don't know that I think the granite is probably the longer one, but I think that the T-lock is a very good, and maybe the way we want to go. So if we were to do the total with the granite curbing there at max, we could spend on those 2 spaces is $14,800 with the granite curbing. So that's one project. The kiddie pool access right now has stairs, essentially cement stairs, which I'm surprised that they have been in place for as long as they have, and I'm surprised that was the original design for young families bringing strollers and such up through there. They usually go on the grass anyways, so at this point the thought process is to add a concrete walk that will go inside the pool area up to through the gates that are already there, and then that concrete walk will go right to the concrete pad around the kiddie pool area, providing adequate access. That's at a cost of $49.25. The third project is from the shelter area. There's no ADA compliant way to get from the shelter area to the bathrooms in what is, I guess, would be the north of the shelter, if you want to call it that. And so there would be a concrete or a paved, should be paved. It says concrete here, but I believe it's going to be paved. Access from the shelter to those bathrooms, as well as adding ADA compliant ramps into the bathrooms. What's there now needs some TLC to, say it mildly. And so that's at a cost of $3,000. And then the walkway from the shelter up to the parking lot, there is not one. We generally have folks drive up and park next to it, and we encourage them to do that, but that does not necessarily meet the standard. So the thought being to add some material, put a culvert, a 12-inch culvert, and then pave an 8-foot walkway up to the shelter area, and that's at a cost of $7,200. So essentially, that is the quote that, for those projects from Johnson's. I would love to work with them. I've talked with several folks in the industry, and they all indicated that is really, really good pricing, and probably seems like the direction to go with. I added the additional lot lining as necessary that you're looking at there. It's the miscellaneous fees of $500, and then stump removal if necessary, another $500. And I'll get into the tree aspect of things, but that's just some miscellaneous stuff there. So I don't know if your thoughts are on that, if that's something that working with Johnson's is the way to go. Really, the great thing about that is I told them when the pool opens, and they indicated that they could have these projects completed by the time the pool opens, which was a pleasant surprise to hear. Not really something that we can be doing in the middle of the summertime. We can't really closing areas down, or so. So I don't know if that's something we want to discuss just moving forward those projects now. If you want me to complete the full request here for the other aspects of the projects, or what your thoughts are.
Board, what's your pleasure?
A question. Excuse my ignorance here, but does ARPA funding cover all of this $30,925?
Yes.
Does the town pay any portion of that?
No.
Shelley, when's our deadline to spend this ARPA money? And what happens if we don't? What are our other options with it?
Okay, so it needs to be allocated by December 25, and it needs to be expended by December of 26. So we have plenty of time.
Why don't you continue then?
Okay. So with, as far as I indicated that the oak tree would need to be removed, I do have quotes on removal of that tree of $1,600. That would leave the stump intact. If we would like to have the stump ground, that's another $400. Depending on what needs to take place, whether the stump needs to be ground or removed for the parking, kind of to be determined at that point. So up to $2,000 for the tree removal. And then there's several trees along the access way that need to be pruned. They're kind of getting a little bit out of control there, and it's kind of impacting some of the lighting. So pruning those trees, that's at a cost of $1,500. And I think once we get into that project, there could be some additional cutting and pruning that may need to take place. There's some ash trees along there that are not in fantastic condition, and it might just make sense for while the company is there doing the work to remove those trees. So I added that additional $2,000 for that, so it's $4,000 for tree work. The second page includes shelter renovations, and these are rough prices. They have been vetted by a contractor, but they're by no means a quote. Again, the shelter bathrooms have been something we've needed to update for quite a while. It's always been one of those cost-benefit things where you're looking to put it into your fiscal budget, or how do you do this? I think this is a great opportunity for us to try to get this project taken care of without hitting taxpayers. And basically what that would mean is adding some privacy fencing out in front of the bathrooms, screen doors, remove and replace toilets, urinals, sinks, and plumbing as necessary, some lighting, soap and paper towel dispensers, new partitions, paint the walls, and then instead of having painted floors that kind of get worn out, look at the option of having those floors tiled. And then, as is the case with any projects in buildings, of that vintage, you never know what might creep up. So a miscellaneous tag of about $3,000 added onto that. So the shelter bathrooms, we're looking at potentially $27,500. Moving on to and Shelley, this aspect of it, this next part, we may or may not, I may or may not request that immediately. When we were putting together our fiscal budgets, budgets all came in, and then, you guys came to us and said, hey, look at your budget, see if there's what you can do to reduce it, the impact on the taxpayers this fiscal year. And part of the thought with that was to potentially use some ARPA funds for a couple of the projects in our originally proposed fiscal budget. So we did pull out $1,000 that we were going to use for tennis courts lighting, $1,000 for the pool deck seal, and $500 worth of pool filter grids. So those were not included in our fiscal budget, the thought being that we could use ARPA funds to make those projects happen. So I guess that total is $64,925 for everything that I just discussed. Some of it being contract, or some of it, being projects that can happen right away, and others, I haven't, talked with contractors as far as bids or estimates or anything along those lines. So I don't know what your thoughts are, whether or not you are willing to allocate all of those at this time, or you are willing to maybe start on the ADA stuff and go from there, or what your thoughts are.
Randy?
I think we should just look at the stuff we have a quote for in front of us.
Okay.
I'm not against any of that, I just,
Yeah.
to have some real numbers.
Yep,
Would make sense.
sure.
So that's
And like I said,
first page.
Yeah, so that's just the first page, correct? So
Yeah,
it's
the
the tree
first-
work, you have actual,
Yep, those are, I've got quotes from contractors. The second page is, like I said, those numbers are just estimates. They have been vetted by a contractor, they just said, yeah, every one of those prices looks pretty accurate, but I can't say that I spec'd out specific items or anything along those lines, so would make sense.
Jean?
So being that this is all ADA work,
Mhm.
no grants?
We haven't looked at that.
I feel a little blind right now as to what our ARPA balance is, because it seems to be flowing.
A little over
I-
3.
300,000.
300,000.
With any other projects committed to?
Mm-mm. That's everything that's been expended.
Okay.
Nothing outstanding in the ARPA? Okay.
I remember when they were talking about doing the bathrooms before, it was a lot less money.
It was a lot less, yeah. Well, and I'm still hopeful that some of these items, may come in under that, but those are the safe numbers, I think, rather than come back to you and say,
Yeah, I think you're
Oops.
smart. What is your pleasure, board?
I kind of agree with Brandon on the first part, that's a gimme in my book. The second part, I'd really like to see some quotes, I'd like to see that go out to bid. My concern is, can we do that and still get it done before you gotta open the pool?
the shelter.
Yeah,
The unique aspect of that is I don't know that some of it would qualify for the bid process, some of it would not. So it's not, when you look at these prices, it's not gonna be one general contractor doing it all. When you have it broken down, some of it's plumbing, some of it's electrical, some of it is a general contractor. So I don't know that we would put this all together and have one person do it. There would be a fair amount of it pieced together, so to speak.
I don't know.
So I guess my general take on the ARPA money is we should be using it to update existing facilities, not creating more facilities that need to be maintained. So I think this, in general, meets that criteria.
Okay.
I mean,
If you guys are comfortable with me moving forward with that first page, I can, we can get started on that. And then as far as the shelter bathrooms go, there may be aspects of that we can work on that probably through the summertime, and I can probably come up with a little bit more information for you. I'm happy to do that. But like I said, some of it would fall to the bid policy, others would not. So really, we're looking at about 34,925.
that's our first page total.
Yeah,
With the granite or with the T-log?
that includes granite.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the asphalt isn't gonna be enough for an area that's used a couple of months of the year.
I think if you've seen asphalt curbing, it breaks down very, very quickly. And so if somebody drives over it or it gets, I'm not looking to go all bells and whistles. I just would hate to have it break down and we have to go and replace it prior to, having the parking lot done or anything along those lines.
So what about, and I may be dreaming this up, but you see like, for lack of a better word, like plastic, but some kind of composite material that's sometimes used as a bumper, and of course it's
I don't think it's
Kind of-
just the bumper for the parking lot, I think it's the curbing surrounding the parking lot as well. Cause you're gonna be
Okay.
you'll be digging into, like, right now there's a grade, so you'll be
Oh.
digging into and you'll,
That- okay.
yeah, so there'll need to be something that will,
So that's what
That's
you're
the T-line.
putting around?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's- Okay, cause it just seemed like,
Yeah, that would be an
Money.
awful lot of money to have 2 4-foot
Yeah,
pieces of granite stuck in
Yeah.
front, I agree.
okay,
The one hiccup that we still have to work through is I have to have DigSafe come, because there is underground power provided to the bathhouse. And I don't know exactly where that underground power enters the bathhouse. We'll have to make that call, but,
yeah.
and adjust accordingly if need be.
What was that total, Seth, page 1?
34,925.
Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move we allocate $34,925 of the ARPA fund requests for the projects on the page 1 of the handout here for the rec department.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, Brandon?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jim? Motion carries.
Thank you. So that would mean we're on board with Johnson's doing the work and getting started tomorrow with that.
Yeah.
Great, fantastic.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for your
guys.
hard work.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it very much. It'll be good to check this off our to-do list.
Vernon Market.
What about, so, what about your maintenance that got taken out of your budget?
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that?
Well, none of those, well, I mean, I'll come back to you before,
Okay.
one of those is a fall project.
Oh, okay.
So I will, I'll just do a little bit more work on the bathroom pricing, and maybe I'll come to you with those. It's my understanding that when those items were removed from the budget, I believe that while it hadn't been voted on to use the ARPA funds, the consensus during those meetings was to use that, so we'll have to make it official at a meeting, but
Yep.
none of those are purchases that I'm planning to make like tomorrow, so
Okay.
I'm comfortable there.
All right, so we'll
We'll
look at it
reconvene.
again.
Yep,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
It's gonna be a lot of work down there.
Hannah Rosinski. I'm just here in front of the board to request permission again to use the Vernon Recreation Area facility as a site for our summer Vernon Community Market. And I would like the board's permission to do so. We have a larger committee this year, and hopefully we're starting off a little earlier, so we're feeling positive. I also touched base with Shelley, who touched base with the attorney to confirm that nothing's changed with regards to needing insurance for out-of-town vendors, which does indeed still sound to be the case at the current time. So we're promoting it as such and looking to recruit all sorts of folks, but people from out of town would be required to have insurance. The couple major differences are that we're gonna hold it on a Thursday, hopefully, instead of a Wednesday, to attract more people. And who maybe think of Thursday as their Friday, that's the hope. And we've slightly changed the hours from 4:30 to 7 instead of 7:30. And the season is slightly shorter. We're gonna go only until September 19th rather than into August this year. Because daylight is short and it seemed like numbers dwindled as we got into fall and it got cooler and kids were back to school. So that is the season. It will start June 6th, so June 6th to September 19th. And I think that's it. So just curious if anyone has any clarifying questions.
Any questions, Brandon? Jim?
Nope.
Jim?
So, but you still had questions about the vendors that were non-food vendors?
Yeah, I guess my pie in the sky hope was that if anyone was not a food vendor, that we would be able to invite them, local crafters and such, invite them without insurance. People that are hobbyists, I guess.
Yeah.
And it sounds like there's still an existing liability for the town. And do you want to clarify that anymore? I'm probably not doing the best job.
No, you're
articulating
doing
that.
fine. So ultimately, it's up to the select board if they want to take on the additional liability if a lawsuit does arise
For residents,
for non-residents.
this is for non-residents or residents?
Non-residents. So
Non-residents.
residents we had last year said it was okay for them to attend. If they were a food, for example, like J&B being a food vendor, they already have insurance for their business and any food truck would. And then of course, Miller Farm, for example, with their milk, they already have food handling. They've already followed the guidelines. So that is sort of separate, but for like general crafters and artisans that were from Vernon, there was no insurance required as a town resident, but anyone coming from out of town, even if they weren't selling food, the expectation is that they'd have to have some sort of insurance. And the one thing that people have articulated is that it's costly compared to the amount that it is for our event, for them to register, which we try to keep kind of low, given that it's a community event. And our goal is to really sort of promote the rec, promote the space, promote community, rather than make money, a money-making effort. And so, so it just leaves us, it limits us in that predominantly the vendors that we did have that came on a seasonal basis were Vernon residents. So it's just limiting the growth from that standpoint.
Right. I just, like, in my mind, I feel like this is a public space that usually allows anybody down there. The factor that it's such a scheduled regular thing probably complicates it as opposed to a one-time event, but I just, like, I feel like our insurance should be okay for this public space that invites the public to do all kinds of things that are much more treacherous than
Yeah.
being a crafter.
From your mouth to the state.
What about a waiver process or something, Shelley? Can we run that by it?
A waiver is not as good as
Yeah,
it's just a piece of paper. When it comes down to a lawsuit, it's out the window.
So what we currently have, just so you know, is we have a registration process that involves an info sheet that details, that they need to have this sort of booth space. If they have a tent, it should be staked down, things of that nature. And then additionally, we have to, and it details that they have to adhere to Vermont state guidelines with food handling and product sales and taxable products and such. And then additionally, we have a town permit. And if it's a out-of-town resident, they have to complete a Vernon Town commercial permit. And if it's a Vernon Town resident, they can complete a resident permit. Within those permits is language that is waiver-ish, but it only does what it does and won't be a full guarantee, so.
So were those permits developed for this market? Because I know we did
Yes,
for the food truck things
Yeah.
before.
yeah.
I've spoken with people who, mostly my friends who are out of towners, and they all, when they've expressed interest, they've all already have insurance because I make sure they know that. Yeah, I like the idea of a waiver, but it doesn't seem to be on the cards right now.
It's like signing a surgical permission. It's nothing.
So, ultimately, it's up to the board if you would like to not require the insurance for artisans, and just for crafts. You do have that power, but,
How does our insurance company feel about that?
oh, we don't have to go there. I want everyone to have insurance,
Of course they do.
yes.
Yeah, and it's I've done quite a bit of research, and it's a mixed bag from the state farmers market, broader market associations go. There are a few that, some that require and some that don't, and it seems to be more based on size than anything else. I mean, the Brattleboro Farmers Market requires it. The vendors there know that that's an expectation. You know, it definitely limits it from being business versus folks that are, you know, just sort of family crafters and
Right,
such. So
right.
it sort of alienates them that way. But it does have a greater frequency and it is larger and has, you know, reaches a broader audience than ours would. I would say on average, we probably have around 100 to 120 people come to the markets, and it would be 7 times this summer. So
So you're
how do
saying-
they do it at the holiday bazaar down here at the school?
It's not required, no insurance is required.
What's the difference?
outdoor, right?
Yeah, I think that there was a suggestion that the more people would be drawn to an outdoor market and therefore greater, liability. I don't know that that is accurate in terms of the number of people that walk through the market on one day as opposed to walk through the craft fair. I'm gonna believe there's probably more that come through the craft fair on any given day. That's the best answer I can give you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Well, it's my impression that we want this thing to grow. And I think anything the select board can do to help that happen is probably gonna be a good thing. I mean, this insurance thing, and you guys know how it is, it's insane. And after seeing how things went last year at it, I really don't see where these great risks are of insurable type problems. So I think the select board should okay, let's make this thing grow. I mean, if we want it to grow, you're obviously gonna have to expand people that come. And I don't wanna discriminate against out-of-state people. And like Gene said, how many people just come and use the property that aren't from state, so I don't think it should be an issue for this short time, it's one day a week for
Twice a month.
Twice a
twice
month.
a
Couple
month,
months.
so it's
Yeah.
not like we're looking to be there every day or anything, so just my 2 cents.
thank you.
So were you saying like the Brattleboro Farmers Market, the crafters are even insured?
Everyone. has
Everyone
to be
is, yeah.
insured.
Putney
I was
also.
just wrote in on my
Yeah.
daughter's insurance.
But that
so
comes
you
to
know.
like $229 a year.
Yeah,
I don't know about the other people, but I don't wanna pay that,
yeah.
or it's something like, what is it, $20 a time? And that's still $140.
Yeah, I
There's
think
no
the
guarantee.
big concern too is that it's for folks that just want to drop in, once or twice a season. That's when it's really limiting because there are only a couple policies that are a daily rate. Most of them are monthly or seasonally or year
Right.
round, so they're paying for a lot of use that they wouldn't end up benefiting from. That was the biggest change. If you're at all considering it, I wouldn't feel comfortable personally, allowing any food vendors without insurance, and I think that's a real liability, and I think that's our
That's out
greatest
of-
liability.
That's out of our
Um,
hands.
But
That's
as far
state.
as like handmade goods, I mean, even just to give you an idea, I mean, even produce itself sold in a farmer's market fashion in the state of Vermont is permissible. People can bring their goods from home and absolutely need no verification of how they were, farmed and grown and processed or whatever. And even that almost feels like it's like a little bit on the edge. So I would encourage us to ask for insurance for anyone that has any sort of food that they're selling. But as far as crafting, I personally would love to see it waived, but it's really obviously up to you, so.
Well, all the food stuff falls under the state laws, which is
Right.
they need to have their certificates and
Which is given to them all anyways.
everything.
Mhm.
Scales
Yep.
have to be inspected, the whole 9 yards, but, can't believe I'm doing this.
Go
But
ahead.
I would like to see more vendors there, and I would encourage more hobby crafters and,
Mhm.
outside crafters to come in.
Motion.
Yeah, kinda, sorta. I don't wanna own it, it's like, but I guess I have to. No, I would move that we allow, the crafters and, as vendors at the, community market without their own liability insurance, but any food vendors need to have their insurance and certificates and follow the state laws.
And we approve them holding the market.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, Brandon?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And I, motion carries.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
your hard work.
That's exciting. Thanks.
We roll the dice.
Special town meeting date. Does Tim have an idea?
Well, we have a 30 to 45 day window to warn a town meeting. So we need to think about that. We also need to think about the options that you'd like me to get additional information on so that I can craft some articles. Okay? So it's a bit of food for thought. I know we had some discussion at town meeting. The transfer station, however, I think the portable transfer station may be an option to consider for residents, and the only thing would be the place to park the trucks. And I think that the far end of the town hall parking lot on the police end would even be an optional place.
I can't hear you, if you could speak up.
I feel that the town hall parking lot where the police station parking used to be would be an optional spot.
This is for a roll-off for recyclables, or?
This would be for a portable transfer station. So you park 2 trucks, then we do the pay-as-you-throw program. Everyone comes and throws their recyclables, their trash. We park it twice a week, once in the morning, once in the afternoon.
Okay,
So
so, yeah, I'm not up to speed here, but that's why I came, is the recyclables
Yeah.
trash. So, it sounded like we're gonna have a lot of discussion and some group meetings about what to do before this next 4-month term ends, or whatever with Casella. Is that right? So are there gonna be
So we're
some
gonna have
meetings discussing which direction to go, or,
Yes, we're gonna need to.
Yeah, we're gonna need
Okay.
some public meetings.
and those at select board meetings, or are there some other special meetings?
I think.
Just try to get
probably
information
special
about that.
meetings. Probably special
Probably
meetings.
special like public
Yeah.
meeting
So you
for
haven't
just the topic.
got any dates yet?
Not yet.
Okay,
That would just,
But it'll be on the town website and,
okay,
you know,
yeah.
be publicized.
Well, and so what you just discussed is one idea?
yeah, we're just starting the conversation, so I also
Okay.
need to find out what everyone's interested in so that I can
Right.
gather more information.
Right, I mean, I don't wanna take up your time,
No.
but out if you want me to.
No, do you have ideas?
I have talked to a few people about it, you know. I don't think Bob Spencer's here, but, you know, he
No,
can
no.
help the town some with, you know, different things regarding recyclables in the past possibly, and, let's see, the fellow is Scott McCusick. I think he lives in Northfield now. And he was in Bernison for quite a while, and he was in charge of some of the trash and recycling. He was on a committee down there, so getting information from him, you know, so I'd like to just give you that knowledge if you want it, you know, once I've got it, so. You know, I guess one of the big problems is finding haulers, right? Nobody bid for hauling, so there's some in Massachusetts that are potential
Yeah.
or possibilities,
I've
you know.
reached out to a couple that were out of state.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's about it. I want to try to meet with Scott and maybe have him meet Bob Spencer a little bit, since they're both very knowledgeable in that area. You know, and then maybe bring some ideas forward, or have them talk to you a little bit possibly. So,
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
yeah, thanks.
Is it my understanding, if Steve's asking, I think the same question I was gonna ask, that there's gonna be some informational meetings prior to that next meeting, right?
Definitely.
Right, special
Right, to
town
the
meeting.
town.
Okay.
And then a special town meeting for a vote,
Afterwards.
For voting.
For
Yeah.
for
voting.
voting, what's gonna happen.
Uh,
You don't have that date yet.
No, that's what we're discussing.
Yeah, yeah.
I got something. Looking at that entire process, there's a lot of different alternatives and there's a lot of moving parts to that. And I think it might be a good idea to kind of thin that field a little bit so that we can concentrate on some of the more reasonable things. Like one that's obvious that I don't know if anybody's thought of is the town doesn't have to be in the garbage pickup business. We pull the plug on that. All right, that's an alternative. It's not my favorite, but it's an alternative. But once you get into the other things, again, it runs into a lot of moving parts. If Casella's gonna continue to come by and pick up stuff, then you get who owns the garbage cans and what percentage of the town needs to do that and what the cost is to you and me for the entire process. So I think that we ought to task somebody with looking into it and maybe refining that down to 3, absolutely maximum of 4 possible things, and throw that out as a presentation, a special meeting with a Zoom capability, post it every place we can, and you know, present those kind of alternatives to the town.
So can we create a solid waste task force to get this done here in the next?
Yeah.
Steve, would you be willing to serve on that? We created,
I could spend some time on it, yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to volunteer Bob Spencer from my planning commission to
That
be on
sounds like a good
that.
idea.
He's got some background in that field.
also Cheryl and Tim Franklin expressed interest in coming up with a solution.
So we have 4, we need 1 more.
I'll do it.
Okay,
Can I say
Brandon.
something? I just had a comment regarding the whole deal. It's obvious, or if it's not obvious, it should be obvious that Casella's on the road to a pretty much monopoly, not only in Vermont, but they're gonna roll right over everything. And I know for a fact that he has approached some of the smaller haulers to buy them out. And that being said, I told Shelley, if you have a chance to watch TV, watch the movie Kill the Irishman. And I'm gonna tell you, it is an eye-opener. And it's a factual thing. This actually happened back in 1972, I believe. But not that that's what's happening here, God almighty. I don't need anybody coming after me, but I just think that it's very important, and I kind of agree with what Mr. Pinkerton said. It could very well be the time for the town to get out of the trash business. The town has done its due diligence. The town has, as a member of the district. Therefore, we have a place to go and dispose of our trash. And I agree with them, getting into anything else can be very touchy-feely.
One thing I did learn, I think, it sounds to be the case, is that like Western Mass recyclables, I think, go to Springfield, whereas Casella, I believe, everything goes to Rutland, so just carbon-wise, it's a better situation, closer, I would think, just, thinking about it real quickly off the cuff, things like that, are important, I think. Where things are gonna go to ultimately, the only landfill now is in Coventry, in this area, and that's ridiculous,
Yes.
You know who owns it?
Oh, yeah, Casella.
My
I
point.
know why they want it.
Guys, if you're looking to schedule meetings, just to make you aware, the gym during April break, the floor is being refinished. So if you were inclined to schedule any meetings in the gym during that week, that may not work out real well for any of us. So just,
Okay.
that's the 22nd through the 26th of April, I believe, just so you're aware of that.
Well, we have to hold the meeting within 30 to 45 days of town meeting? Or before that?
Posting the
Posting.
Warning it.
Okay. So when do you think we should hold it? John?
I think we should get input from our committee that we just put together
Yeah.
and see what they got for ideas and pivot based on that.
Yes, in other words, you're gonna have to have feedback on how quickly somebody could come online. You've gotta give Casella time to get offline and somebody else to get online, right? So how long is that?
Well, we
gonna
have
take?
that, I mean,
We
the
have,
contract,
yeah.
it's a contract over with Casella.
Yeah.
September.
And that was an extension to
Yeah.
fill this gap already,
Yeah, it wasn't
so
easy to get.
And it
that
runs through
extension.
when?
September, through
To the end of
September?
September.
Okay, so you could have some, if you're not gonna stay with them, you're gonna have something.
Yeah, but we have to have a
Beginning of-
special town meeting before
that.
that on the issue.
You have to have it
Get some money.
so that we can, yeah, 30 days from whatever happens at the special town meeting, they petition to have another special town meeting. So we've got to keep that in
Yeah. So get it back
And
on.
fine. Okay, so we thank the people who have volunteered and those that got volunteered. And we'll leave it up to Steve and Brandon to decide when your first meeting will be, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you guys need t-shirts. Solid Waste Task Force, I'm sorry. He said it and I was like, I don't know, a cape or a t-shirt?
I like that. No. Okay, the special meeting date is to be determined. Certificate of compliance for town road and bridge standards, you all have a copy of it?
Did this come from Dave?
Yes,
I presume not.
it's the every year annual form.
So what is your pleasure?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Jane?
I move that we sign the certificate of compliance for town road and bridge standards and network inventory.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Brandon?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Okay, residents interested in serving on the select board? Do you want to hold off and do that executive session so we can talk with them?
Do executive session for
We
that?
can.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you gentlemen mind holding off? Thank you.
Finish the.
You done, Michael? Munson, Hicks, and Vernon Zlochiver are willing to serve on the DVFiber committee, commission. Do we have a motion?
This is an annual
Appointment?
reappointment necessary for part of DVFiber's Deerfield Valley Communications Union District, doing business as DVFiber. This is something that we need to do every year. And all our member towns are asked to reappoint their representatives. Munson is the voting member from Vernon, and I'm an alternate. We had a second alternate, but Mark Polonis, but his work was primarily on the operations committee, and that work has been pretty much done. They designed the network, and now they're only meeting like every 4 months, so he feels that he can come off as our alternate, but Munson is on the executive committee. I think there's 5 or 6 members, and I'm vice chair of the communications committee. Our work is ongoing, both Munson's and mine, especially now that we have constructed part of the network and we want to increase our take rate of customers. So communications is really focusing on marketing. Not that we on the committee are doing the graphic design and the ads, but we are the public face of DVFiber when we go to public events. Like last year, we went to the Independence Day celebration in Reedsboro. We went to the clam bake in September in Halifax, and let me tell you, the lobster was great. We've been to Whitingham and Marlborough, and so our work is ongoing, and both Munson and I would like to be reappointed. And I don't know how, I think that the town clerk gets the form and you have to sign it, yeah, and send it in to Donna,
Yeah, I'll sign
the
it.
clerk of
I'll build it up.
of DVFiber.
So what
Thank
is
you.
your pleasure, Rick?
And Chair, I move we appoint Munson, Hicks, and Breonna, I don't know how to say your last name, Zlochiver, as representatives to DVFiber in the town of Vernon.
We have a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, Brent?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Can't do this now, we forget to do it. We hand that to Shelley, please. Windham Regional Commission appointments. Jim Arsenault and Jim Pinkerton. Do we have the form for that, or is it upstairs?
I don't have a form for that.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I can just write to them and let them know that they've been appointed and give information.
They have a form, I'll send it to you.
Do they?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe Tim filled it out last year.
Yep. And Tim said he was interested in continuing
He
with
said
the
you were.
And he said I would. Okay, all right.
Do you confirm?
So do we have a
I can
motion to
even confirm
reappoint
what
Jim
it's.
and Tim to the Windham Regional Commission?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we appoint Jim Pinkerton and Tim Arsenault to the Windham Regional Commission.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have discussion? All those in favor, Brandon?
Aye.
Jim?
For Tim, aye.
Jean?
Aye.
I'm an aye, the motion carries. Nice try. Cemetery Committee appointee, Breonna Zlochiver.
I'm embarrassed, I didn't realize it was gonna be a public thing, I just wanted to let you know that I wanted to be back on it for another year. And I assume the other two members are on it also,
We haven't discussed it
Sandy
yet.
and Brandon, I hope.
Do I have a motion to appoint Breonna Zlochiver to the Cemetery Committee?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a discussion? Brandon?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Thank you.
Do the other members also need to be appointed, or this is what
We'll
we're
let you
talking?
know at the next meeting.
Okay. All right, moving on.
I would like to, Breonna is interested in serving still on the Windham County Economic Development Program Council Plan. Isn't that WikiDip or something?
That's WikiDip, yeah.
WikiDip.
For those of you who may not know what it is, when the Vermont Yankee closed, we lost 600 jobs in the county. And Entergy, the owner of the plant at that time, and the state, one of the agreements they had was to provide, Entergy would give $2 million for 5 years for a fund to encourage economic development in the county. And the first year of the program, Vernon was not on the council, and they reorganized and realized that Vernon should be as the site of the plant. So they invited Vernon to send a rep, and there were some personnel changes and stuff. So I volunteered, and I've been on it since then, and I have no idea how long I've been on it. And one of the things that we do, the council does, is give out grants and a revolving loan fund. We manage those. And our staff person is with the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, and it has been since the beginning. I can tell you about some of the grants and the revolving loan fund ever since, well, the latest numbers I know, like before the pandemic, we were getting repaid $20,000 a month. So that money is to be given out again to encourage economic development. We use, at town meeting, the town meeting approved funding SEVEDS, the Southeast Vermont Economic Development Strategies. Well, we use those guidelines in making our decisions for who gets a loan and who doesn't get a loan, who gets a grant, and BDC staff do the same on their different programs. And so I've enjoyed it, I've learned a lot. I went in there again, not knowing anything, and I used to call myself the civilian on the council because we had the town manager, currently we have a state senator and we have a state representative. We have people who do this work regularly, and I don't. But I've learned a lot and I've really enjoyed it. So I want to be reappointed.
So do we have a motion to reappoint Breonna to WikiDip?
I'd make a motion that we approve Breonna to the WikiDip.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Brandon?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries. Thank you very much for your service.
I'm not volunteering for anything else
You already got 3 things
that you need to
on.
vote on.
Okay, Planning Commission recommendation, Miller Farms Solar Array. Go, Mr. Miller. Okay, Jim,
All right, Planning Commission
put on your
hat.
other hat.
Originally, when this came up, we ran into that 45-day requirement.
Mhm.
And since that, the Windham Regional Commission Planning and Development has reviewed it, and they determined that the whole reason for that 45 days was for a certificate of public good, not for a preferred site. So the Planning Commission got together and kicked it around, and we decided we think that the project is a good idea, and that the Planning Commission, I have a letter from the people on the Planning Commission that recommend to the Select Board that we approve that as a preferred site for a solar array. There's a couple of caveats on that. Because they haven't gone through the entire process, we would qualify it by saying the site's going to remain as it's described in the document that they presented to us. In other words, you're not going to make any major changes to that. The net metering location, the location where they're going to plug into the grid, doesn't change, because again, that could involve some changes. And the site plan, there's 2 findings that are yet to be done. One is on A&R identified some wetlands in the area. Well, they've hired an environmental expert to come in and evaluate that and see whether or not that's in fact the case for the altitude that it's at. And I haven't been on a site survey, I can say it's not a wetland, in my humble opinion. And there needs to be a plan to deal with any endangered flora or fauna in the area. And again, they've hired somebody to come and investigate that, and they're gonna add that to the section, to their plans. With that in mind, I think it's a good idea, and as chair of the Planning Commission, and as the whole Planning Commission, we recommend that this Select Board approves that as a preferred site.
Board? Jean,
Me?
do you have anything, any questions?
Question.
Yes, sir.
The funny thing, I didn't know about this thing until about a week ago. So talk about being out of the loop. I don't know how long ago some of you folks knew about it. Obviously, Mr. Pinkerton, he probably knew about it long before the rest of us. However, I had mentioned that I had got wind of a solar array going in between 142 and Governor Hunt Road in the field directly behind Brian Teet's house. I don't know if you guys know where that is, but it's right next, basically next to the school. The field behind next to the school, and the property is not owned by Millers, it's owned by Great River Hydro. And when they first mentioned it, I says, geez, I says, that's funny. I says, how are they gonna do that? I was thinking maybe Great River Hydro was gonna put in a thing. Then I find out that no, this is way up on the hill behind the Miller farm.
Mhm.
And I says, that's a hell of a place to milk cows, but either way, I wasn't certain if there will be, or is there any scuttlebutt that there will be another solar array in the location I'm talking about. Does anybody have any knowledge of that possibly happening?
Planning and Economic Development Commission hasn't heard a squeak about that site at all.
That's who would go to first.
And who they should come to first.
Yeah, that's the key word, should.
Yep.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I'm just bringing it up because, just for common knowledge, I don't know how real it is. All I know is that that's the scuttlebutt that I got, and the scuttlebutt can be realistic sometimes. And if you look at the site, kind of makes sense, But either way, I just wanted to bring that
So
up.
Don, they told us we could grow corn there this year.
Well, that's another year you might be able to grow corn. But you ain't growing it up on the hill where the woods were.
Yeah. And they were originally gonna use that site for a gravel pit. It's, as you know, it's right in between two gravel pits.
Mm-hmm.
And they did some digging down there and found out that it's not that great for a gravel pit. So, and it's horrible for planting anything. What are you gonna grow some grass under there, Brandon, or something like that? But it's it looks like the surface of the moon up there, for crying out loud.
No, I would doubt it, and I like you, I questioned the idea of whether or not there are any quote-unquote wetlands, which could be referred to sometimes as vernal pools.
Yep.
Which in my opinion is oftentimes referred to as a puddle.
Yeah.
It's different things that get tossed in the way, and you got a way which is the best way to go in circumstances like that.
Yep.
But I just wanted to bring up the fact that I had heard about this field down here, and if it's a possibility, if anybody finds out, whoa, yeah, now they want to do it, should be interesting.
So usually when things like that are happening, part of the process is that all the abutters are notified well before it even gets to this point, so.
Yeah, the only abutters would be the school and the antiques,
Oh,
basically.
are you talking about behind the school?
Well, if they were doing
Yeah,
something over there.
Yeah.
Right, that's right. And I'm sure the Miller Farm Array, the only abutter is Miller's, if I'm correct.
Oh, no, they
No,
have
there's a whole list.
quite a
Evans
few,
Pit,
quite a few abutters.
yeah,
Yeah, a
They got a
lot.
whole list of
Tyler
them that
Hill.
they've already identified
yeah,
and sent letters to.
Yeah,
Well, the good thing is they're not developed properties, am I right?
Yeah.
It's basically woodlands or, like you said, a pit or
It's
something.
actually, they don't even have to cut down a tree to do that. It's all just moonscape.
Art, do you have anything you want to say?
Nope.
Okay. Board, what is your pleasure? I think I'm gonna look to this side. Sorry. What is your pleasure?
go ahead, go.
Okay, I'd make a motion that we designate the Miller Farm Solar as a preferred site.
Do we have a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Abstain.
Aye.
aye.
The motion carries, aye.
Thank you.
That was a long time coming, right?
All right. We're gonna go into executive session on the Selectboard vacancy. Do you want to meet with both people at the same time, or one at a time, or do you want to meet first to discuss and then call them in?
Can we meet first?
Yeah, we're gonna meet
That's my
first and then we'll
first
call you
Executive
guys
session.
in.
So Madam Chair, I move we go into executive session for the appointments or employments or evaluations of a public officer or employee.
With our
with our
Administrator.
town administrator.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Brandon?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
I'm an aye. We will be calling you in. Thank you. $7:40 came out at $7:55. No action was taken in executive session. We thank you both for expressing your interest in serving our town. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Jeff Dunklee as the interim select board person for the next year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Excuse me. All those in favor, Brendan?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Ken, thank you for your interest. We expect to see you on ballot next year.
Thank you.
And remember,
Thank you.
remember, we have a planning commission that needs members, so don't hesitate to come by and give me a call anytime on that.
Will do, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night, everyone.
Sit over there.
Oh, yes, I need to.
Stay.
Wait.
Jeff,
You need to
want
raise
this
your right
spot?
hand.
If
Jeff,
Unless you want
you were in love with this spot, then spot.
do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully discharge the duties of the two-year select board position unexpired term until the Vernon Town and Town School District meeting in March 2025, and therein do equal right justice to all men and women according to your best judgment and ability, so help you God? Would you please sign right there? Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, sir. Welcome.
Thank you.
Brandon, we need to go in. Again, the same thing.
Madam Chair, I move we go into executive session for the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Brendan?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries. We are in executive session at 7:58. Okay, we went into executive session at 7:58, came out at 8:13. No action was taken.
Madam Chair, I move that we put the town administrator and town treasurer, the responsibility of the capital plan in the hands of the town administrator and the town treasurer.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, Jeff?
Aye.
Brandon?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
I'm an aye, the motion carries. Upcoming meeting schedule, Board of Abatement is March 28th at 6:30 p.m. And the Select Board regular meeting will be April 2nd at 6:30. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Glory there. All those in favor? Jeff? Brandon?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
We are adjourned.